Hey guys, welcome to lesson 307, I believe. I want to do a quick crash course in what this whole channel is all about. We just finished doing At the Hop in the last lesson. That would be a beginner's song, so I want beginners who have been playing several months and reading notes on 4 strings, including getting to the F sharp in Halleonard Book 1, to be able to play that song melodically. The chords there, D, G, and A, may or may not be within their reach at that point. It all depends on how much the student is working on chords. Usually they're not at that point yet. Their chord knowledge would be around the C, G, D7 chords. But if they're more interested in chords, they could have advanced. Or some students, that's all they want to work on, so they're not working on the melody. You may even be a fairly advanced player going back into halleonard at this point, where you've got many skills, but you don't know how to read, so you're working on that. In either of those cases, you want to be at the beginning of this course. Starting guitar starts you off on day 1 where you don't know anything about your guitar. You learn the strings, the notes, how to read the notes, how to play some chords, and how to learn to read through halleonard. Along the way, we learn what a 12-bar blues is. We need that in At the Hop if you're playing the chords. And if you don't know what a 12-bar blues is, you want to go back in the course, get back in the beginning, and start to work through the lessons and pick up all the information, all the background stuff that gets you there. If you're particularly interested in 12-bar blues and nothing else, just search on the channel or check the playlist for 12-bar blues. The song is in the key of D and has the primary chords, 1, 4, and 5. If you don't know what those are, you need to be checking that out earlier in the courses. I'm over 400 lessons on this channel, so that's 7 or 8 years if you're doing them one at a time as you can absorb them. So when you see certain things on this channel, like the fingerstyle for Bryan Adams, that's not for the beginner. That's for somebody who's been playing for several years. Primary chords are back at the beginning. As with the note reading. When you're reading your notes, you're learning about scales, the key of C, then the key of G, and then the key of D. All of these applicable to the song At the Hop. The key of D has 2 sharps, and we talk about that. The first chords you would learn would just be these tiny little guys, G's and G7s and C's and D7s. Then we'd move on to A minors and E minors. Once you get those, then you can start to think about what we need in this song, which are power chords. If you look at this tab for an E chord, we have open, 2, 2, 1, open and open. E minor is the same chord, but the pointer is removed, so the 3rd string is open. E7 is just like E, except the ring finger is removed, and you have an open 4th string. Notice in each of these cases, we have an open E string and a 2nd fret on the 5th string. That's what a power chord is. It's a root and a note on the next string 2 frets higher. So an open and 2 frets higher on the next string is the 2nd fret. That note is the root, E, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B is the 5th. So these are also called 5s. That's an E5 or an E power chord, where you play that 2 and this open, and you strum just those 2 strings. On the open A string, the 5th string, we can create a power chord by playing the E, the 5 note, on the next string at the 2nd fret. So open 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string. That's an A5. We can do the same with a D. You could look at all your D chords and recognize they have an open 4th string and a 2nd fret on the 3rd string. So those low 2 notes of all those different D chords would be the power chord, the D5. With 3 power chords, you can play lots of songs in the key of A. You can go A5, D5, A5, E5. Any order. You could play D and then A. And so on. These power chords become very versatile. Then around lesson 80, we started to add another finger to the power chord, moving from E5s to E6s by adding another note, A5s to A6s. If this is the root, open E, and this is the 5th of the scale, this B note, then 2 frets beyond that at the 4th fret, right here, would be a C sharp, which would make it an E6. So you can go E5, E6, E5, Same with D. D, D6, D5 I should say, D6. If you see a song that asks you for E5, E6, E5, E6, they're not asking you to have two whole different chords. They're asking you to do this move. E5, E6, E5, E6. Usually what we do is two E5s, put the 6 down and remove it. And that gives us what I call the Boogie Strum. You can do it on A, A5 and A6, and D. Then we have lessons on that, especially Keep Your Hands to Yourself by the Georgia Satellites, a great little boogie song, 12-bar blues from the 80s. So I'm on A's and D's, now the E, and stop on A, and that's basically the whole song. Go back to my playlist, search that song out so you can learn how to play that, which will allow you to master these chords. Moving on then, we don't want the power chord only where we have an open note. Perhaps our root is not an open E. Perhaps it's an F. If open E was accompanied by a 2nd fret, the 1st fret F must be accompanied by a 5th fret. There's an F5. I could move to the next string, a root, a B flat, and it's 5, 1st fret and 3rd. I could move that up 2 frets. A root is C on the 3rd fret, so on the next string is a 5th fret. You can do that in any key. At this point, this is your power chord. This would be a root, and you could place that on any fret, any string, and in just about every case, the 5th is 2 frets over on the next string. So I could grab a random chord here. This is an E, 7th fret of the 5th string. To make a power chord, I go on the 4th string, 9th fret. For the feel that I would like to do in At the Hop, I would go to a D note. You have to know the notes on your guitar to do this. So there are lessons on fretboard knowledge, learning where your D is and how to find it on the 5th string. The 5th string is an A string, so we have A, B, C, D is at the 5th string, 5th fret. Put a power chord there. G and A, the other chords of the song, can be found on the 6th string roots. The 6th string is E, E, F, G is at the 3rd fret, so 3rd fret, G on the low string. Its power chord note is the 5th fret of the other string. Go back to D, 5 and 7, with the root on the 5th string. If G was the 3rd fret, A is the 5th fret, so 5 and 7 is A. G, and back to D. So what I've just played there would be D, G, and A, the 1, 4, 5 in the key of D. D is 1, D, E, F, G is 4, and A is 5. Primary chords in D are D, G, and A, 1, 4, and 5. The song is a 12-bar blues. Here's your 12-bar blues pattern. So it plays D for 4 bars, then the G, back to D, A, 5th fret, G, 3rd fret, and D. So this is a doo-wop song with a nice cool walking boogie bass guitar and a boogie piano. The boogie piano is playing D5s and D6s. So on beat 2, we put the pinky down, we go root and 5. To get a 6, you go 2 frets higher than that 5th. So if I've got a 5 and a 7 for a D, a D5, I add the pinky at the 9th fret for the D6. So I've taken this concept that I used on open strings, which is fairly easy, moved it to where I have closed off power chords where it's a little bit harder. You have to reach with that pinky. And the song would go 4 bars of D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. G5 and G6, D5 and D6, A5 and A6, G5 and G6, D. The D would be 5th and 7th fret, adding a 9. In G it's 3 and 5, adding a 7. In A, you add the 9 on the 5th string. So those are your boogie chords built upon power chords in the key of D using D, G, and A on a 12-bar blues, which is what we ran into in At the Hop. That's how you can play one style of the chords for the melody that we learned last time. Hopefully you got all that. Take her easy, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.